Hey, how's it going? I'm Walid Shaya.
I'm Kavita Raj.
And today we have a very special guest on Lights
Camera
and
Conversation.
Hello, Brandon.
Hey.
Hey.
We are so excited to have you here. We have Brandon Hudson in the house. Cheers.
Cheers,
We're so
Brandon.
thrilled to have
Welcome.
you here, Brandon.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Delicious wine. Kavita brought out the red today.
Yes.
Before we dive in, a little bit about Brandon. Brandon Hudson is a professional actor, dancer, and creative hailing from Central Illinois. Notable credits include playing Randy in Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square. We love Dolly.
Yes, oh
love
my
her.
gosh.
Singing backup to Mickey Guyton for the 2022 Superbowl National Anthem. Right?
What?
Being a swing in the original Broadway casts of Hamilton. We love
Wow.
Hamilton.
Obsessed.
And Head Over Heels and dancing in the Prom on Netflix.
Oh my gosh.
Musical madness here, Brandon, and we love it. Films include Eddie in the indie film Clocked, currently in the indie circuit, and Steve in SNAG on Paramount Plus and Apple TV, which debuted May of this last year, 2023.
Oh my
Most
gosh.
recently, okay, because there's more, but wait, there's more. Most recently, Brandon edited, directed, and produced indie artist. How do you say the name? Is it Tinjas?
Tanja.
Tanjas' short film called Haunted House, which is going to be released in its entirety the first week of November. So this week that this podcast is out, check it out. You can find Brandon at Brandon Hudson 90 on Instagram for updates on that. And his other short film, Freedom, which discussed the journey to sobriety from the eyes of influencer Corey O'Brien, received praise from Yahoo Health, BuzzFeed, Curity, among more, okay? Other works include backup dancing for J. Hud,
Oh
Jennifer
my
Hudson
gosh.
herself, Shaggy, Gwen Stefani, Tadrick Hall, so many more. He's the owner of B90 creative and video editing service that brings various types of content and performance to life. So Brandon, like us, is an entertainment entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only does he perform, he creates, he teaches, he educates, he brings people together and collaborates. And we're gonna dive deep into that. He specializes in direction, creative direction, and artist development. So welcome,
Oh my
Brandon.
gosh.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's the show.
That's the show. We are so happy you're here.
So excited.
And
My
there's
gosh.
so much
what
to
a,
talk about today. Just to really
what a journey,
focus
what
on
experience.
your experience, your journey.
Yeah.
You know, coming from Illinois, the move to LA, and we'll get to that.
Yes.
So Brandon, let's start with Hamilton.
Okay.
Hamilton's just, a crowd favorite. Everyone knows Hamilton.
Oh my gosh.
So start us at the beginning. Take us A to Z, the auditions for that, how you heard about it, what it's like to be in the show, your castmates.
What a
Tell us
show.
everything. Spill the tea.
Yeah, spill the wine.
Spill the wine.
Actually, let me just,
Yes.
Spill the wine, yes. It's okay to take wine drinking breaks.
Yeah,
and if
I'll
you're
take
listening
it.
along, we hope you're also enjoying your own
Yeah,
libations.
Now you know this is not a prop.
it's very real. And if I fall out of this chair, I'm kidding. So the audition, I mean, that was a whole crazy situation because I was actually, so I don't think I put this on there, but I did 2 tours before I did Broadway.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I did the International Tour, West Side Story, and then about like 8 months later, I went to the Joseph National Tour.
Yes.
So Joseph was choreographed and directed by Andy Blankenbuehler, who choreographed Hamilton.
Okay.
So my friend, a very close friend of mine, was in the show in the initial public stages, and we hung out all the time. I remember, asking them about it, and I was in the know of what was going on, and then I was also on tour. And I remember one day I literally walked up to Andy, like we were on stage at the Pantages here in LA, and I was like, "Yo, do you think I could do Hamilton?" Like I was just like was very honest about it, and he was like, "We're silent," and he was like, "Yeah, I think you could." And I was like, "Bomb." Okay, so I literally, the moment I got back to New York, I took every single Hamilton class I could take with every associate, every person who was in it. I was in every class. I learned every single audition dance I could learn. I perfected it. I went to so many classes to the point I started being in the select group in the classes because I knew the choreo. And then I auditioned probably 5 or 6 times before I went to Broadway. I was in final callbacks, and it was between me and Neil Haskell for the Broadway cast, initially before they opened. And then I did an audition again, and then out of nowhere, I just got a call. They're like, "You start tomorrow at 1.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm a server at a Mexican restaurant. Hold on, I need to
Where
like
was this
go.
in New York?
In New York.
Okay.
I was like on my shift, and I found out at like 4:30 p.m. and I was like,
Were you just like,
I cried. I went to the bathroom, and I literally like, there was like a big like skull in the bathroom, like a Mexican restaurant, you know.
yeah,
What's the Dia de los Muertos?
yeah.
It was like that skull, and I was just like crying next to it, and I was like, what is going on? And then ran out, quit, and then I like sat down with these guests at the restaurant, and I was like, I don't know what you want, but I'm like, I like told them my story, and I was like crying at their. It was weird. So that was
Tequila
my
for everyone.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first. And that was
Tequila
my
on my boss.
yeah, on them because I just quit. So
Yeah, exactly. Oh
but
my God.
yeah, that was my Broadway
I'll
debut.
get my first paycheck
That was
in a
your
week.
Broadway debut. Was that the original Broadway cast?
Yeah.
That is so
This is
exciting.
insane.
And then, you know, you're in Hamilton. It just got
I'm
started. Did you have any idea it was going to be the sensation it is today?
I don't know anything ever, and I think that's like I literally just don't process a lot of things. I just go through them. So I felt like I was the same way there. Like
At that point for you, was it just like booking a great Broadway upcoming show?
Right.
Or did you guys all have like some...
I don't know. I mean, I knew it was semi-big. I had like, so there was a point in time that I was walking past that theater every day before work, before it opened on Broadway. And I was like, I literally would stand under it and I'd be like, I'm going to be in you. I'm going to be in you. And then I would go to work. And then, so I just didn't really, nothing processed for me. And at that time when they were doing all the lotteries and everything, I was working.
Hand for hand.
Yeah, so I never saw them.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, everyone's coming to the show. Cool, great. And then I joined, and I was like, my first night there, I met Jennifer Aniston. I was like, this is different.
Right.
And then as we, 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I'm chilling with Oprah and Gail. Okay, cool. And
Let's
then
talk about these people.
the next day
Before
is-
you get too far,
yeah.
tell us about Jennifer. Tell us about Oprah and Gail.
everyone's so nice.
They're so
I mean,
sweet.
yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
They love the show.
They did, yeah. I had some cool I had a really fun conversation with Drew Barrymore, and she like pointed at me. She was like, "Come here," because I was on that night. And mind you, the role that I played, I was a swing, so I had to learn everyone's parts. But the part that I initially went on for was Sam Seabury, who sings a whole song with Lin-Manuel.
Of course.
So that was. I'd also, fun fact, guys. I've only like in high school, I was only like a lead for 2 shows and 1 musical out of the 4 years. I was mostly like stage crew and building the sets and painting, and then I would never get really solo. So this was a whole moment. I was like, what is going on in my life? So nothing registered. Even when I talked to these people, I was like, oh, cool. The one thing that really registered for me, I think that kind of changed my perspective. It actually wasn't the celebrity aspect, like, because I did meet Obama, I did meet Beyonce, I did meet Julie Andrews, Mary J. Blige, Bill Gates, everyone you could think of,
Yeah,
Eminem, Kanye
Everyone
West.
loves
like,
Hamilton.
Yeah,
Star-studded show.
everyone's there. But the thing for me that kind of changed my perspective of like what it was is that I came out, and so it was like thousands of people every night at the door. And they all like, I was on, so they all were like cheering as I walked out. They cheered one by one for each performer, and like screamed. It was crazy. I was like, whoa. And they were like, oh my God, said my name. And I was like, what about it? And they were like, you're blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what's your name? And she told me her name. I was like, you're blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And she's like, but and I was like, I really don't care. I was like, the only thing separating us is like this middle bar. So it really doesn't mean anything, but it's nice to meet you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't know. I just never really, it was cool,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
That says so much about how grounded you are
Down to
inside,
earth.
inside
Down
of
to
yourself,
earth,
and how important that is, right? For you, this is a job, an important job.
Yeah.
Yes, you do something you love, and you're very happy about doing what you love and what you're talented in. But for you, it's a job, and for you have to deliver on the role, and that's how you're looking at yourself,
Yeah.
which is so great for endurance and sustaining this long term, because it's not going to be like a crash and burn situation where you're like, oh my God, I'm here, and I'm just this like magical superstar light ball of flame.
I will say I did have a little bit of that. It's like at certain
and downs, yeah,
points
as-
because Hamilton really like changed the landscape for theater on all of social media, for all of Broadway. Like people had not seen shows on Broadway like this, so it's a lot for them. And I remember, all of us kind of took part in that, and so I mean, things were blowing up in weird ways, and Twitter was going crazy, and then, you know, it's like we would tweet something, and then 5 things would show up at the stage door. So there was like weird.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even like go out in New York. It was strange. Like I would get stopped at clubs and ask for tickets,
Oh,
like at like
wow.
2 in the
Oh
morning.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So that was like, there were moments of that, but I was
Yeah.
like, what is going on?
Yeah,
Like, this is
yeah.
crazy. But
I love. No, what a fabulous experience. How long were you on it?
so I did it for about 5.5 months.
Okay.
So the role that I did was actually one that was created.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, when I got in there, I was like, what am I doing here? And they were like, we don't know. You just were put in this cast. And I was like, okay. So it was a swing, but it was a vacation swing, but it was a role that didn't exist until like I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it exists in every cast, which is cool. But
The original Broadway cast creates original characters
Hello.
and storylines.
wild.
That's so cool, Brandon.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us, about it being a swing. I think people have a hard time imagining how actors memorize one character's lines or body of songs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do it as a swing, and how do you keep everything separate? You go to class, that's one thing. You
Yeah.
mentioned having already known the choreo a bit
Yeah.
before even being in the show. I mean, that's the level of like knowledge you had before getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, what's the organization process like?
I have to know a show inside and out, full body.
Yes.
Like, so for me, some people use tracking sheets. I also use tracking sheets. In Hamilton, I didn't use a single tracking sheet.
Can you tell our listeners that don't know what tracking sheets are, what they are?
So first off, for those who don't know what a swing is, obviously someone who has to learn multiple parts. It could be ensemble parts, male, female identifying parts. It could be literally anything. When you're just asked to do something, you just got to do it. That includes solos, leads, all that kind of stuff. Learning tracking sheets. Tracking sheets are something that swings and dance captains make in order to keep the show in order. So they'll use like little squares, circles, triangles to identify who's who. They'll use color coding per song. I know my second Broadway show, I had a tracking sheet that was like 100 and something pages long. So and it's for every single formation on stage. And that one was very beneficial for that show, but I didn't have one at all for Hamilton. I did everything by mind. For that one. And so for me, even when I was done with rehearsal, I would still go home and run the show and all the mistakes I made when I was rehearsing it by myself. And so sometimes I'd be doing that till like 1 or 2 in the morning, even though I got home at midnight. But I was like, I cannot make this mistake tomorrow. I have to make sure it's gone. And then, go to rehearsal, do the whole thing. And then every time the show was running, I was running the show. Even if I wasn't in the show, I was running it full out by the merch stand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your own production.
My own
Yes,
production.
but that's great. It got you in shape for it.
I was sweating every night.
Sharp.
Yeah.
I love that. So amazing. Did you got to see Hamilton, right?
Oh my
Kavita?
God, saw it twice.
You had a great time.
And I didn't see the first cast, so I missed your time there.
So I actually only went on like maybe 13 times or something like that in my 5.5 months, but that's still pretty cool, I
It's
guess.
iconic. It's an iconic show, and I heard that the first one was the most spectacular, like cast, crew, everything, right?
That's you, boo.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. I heard that
crazy.
from everybody. And I saw the second round and then went for the third or the fourth one. But the show left us all, it was just so new. It was novel in the casting. It was novel in the storyline. And it
the
was just,
sound.
it changed the game on Broadway.
Completely.
Changed the way we looked at Broadway. It changed the way it inspired my daughters, who are, 2 women of color. And for them as aspiring artists, singers, and my younger one at that time loved Broadway and was on the track to wanting to do Broadway when she was younger. It was just eye-opening, inspiring to see a show like that. So
It was crazy.
yeah.
It's really
Fans.
cool, like looking at the entertainment industry now. And like I was having this conversation with a friend of mine back in St. Louis over the summer, and I was like, I guess like now I look at it and the whole entertainment industry shifted with that show.
Yeah.
And I like observe and I'm like, that is crazy. Like a show has that much
Yes.
power. because it really did. It shifted everyone in such like a good direction where now we do have people of color and, you know, of different gender identities and stuff in shows playing leads or like creating their own work and actually getting seen. Like none of that would have ever happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
That's
talk about
cool.
the importance of diversity on our podcast often.
Yeah.
And
I'm here for it. So.
yes, and how you know, it's like a ripple effect. It takes one to kind of inspire the rest.
Yeah.
And even in the sound, too, of Hamilton.
The courage in creation. Yeah, the sound. Oh my God.
You know, it made musicals, the contemporary musical, a whole other evolution of it, right?
So
And
much more pop.
It's crazy coming from a dance perspective, right? You think of like, you know, we have all these icons as dancers and choreographers throughout the industry, whether it be commercial industry or theater industry. And, you know, we think of like the Bob Fosse's, or we think of like the Debbie Allens, or we even like the people who've been performers forever, like the Ritas and the Cheetahs, you know, stuff like that. But like what Andy did with that choreography, and he's heavily inspired by Bob Fosse. So he was in a show, I forgot what show it was. I think it was Dancing back in like the 90s with Bob Fosse. But his movement is heavily inspired by Bob Fosse mixed with street styles. And so, because he choreographed in the Heights as well.
Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah, and so he had this shift of choreography that like really kind of, again, woke up the industry in a different way. And so now when you look at choreography on Broadway, it's a lot of street styles. It's a lot of like all these things. And I don't think right now people are going to realize it, but I think probably in 30, 40 years, they're going to be like, Andy Blankenbuehler. But I'm like, it's crazy because even that shifted, like how he made the movement shifted everything moving forward. Yeah, it's like all the dancers dance the same in New York again. Like it's all this theater-esque hip-hop style stuff. It's cool. I like
so
it.
fun.
Love it.
We love it.
I think the world was ready for it, and someone sensed it and had the courage to like put this forward, right? How was it working in that first season with Lin-Manuel? I mean, was it?
It was cool. Yeah, I mean, we were all busy, like so busy. So we had some hangouts here and there, but like we were so busy.
There's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. A lot of I mean, I was 25. So it was a lot of pressure for a 25-year-old who had never been on Broadway before or anything like that. So I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. Coming from the music world, how has your experiences since then being in tours, before and after that, being on like music tours with like artists as a dancer?
No, it's been good. Like every tour is very different. So I booked my first world tour with an artist, but then got released from it. That's just things happen, you know? I only did one tour, like a mini tour with somebody, and that was fine. I mean, the person was my friend, so it was cool. But I feel like I'm lucky because the artists that I have gotten to work with are extremely talented. They're not just products of the industry. They're artists who've worked themselves up and, you know, to be these really iconic artists. So I feel very lucky for that. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, I don't have any super like, there's no horror stories on them. However, this is where the tea comes in.
I'm waiting.
I see the face over there. It's like getting lower and lower. Like, I have been very discerning as far as artists that I choose to work with or want to work with, because again, we hold so much power in the world, and like art and music shifts culture, and a lot of people don't realize that or have the understanding. So I'm very adamant about who I work with, but also if I can sing, dance, and act better than you, I don't want to be behind you. I want to support people who are talented and who have the training and the skill. So I'll be happy to support you, but if you like can't hold a note, if you're going to be flat on stage, you don't got the breath control because you're not doing the work, which is a lot of artists, that gets hard for me, and I choose not to work with those type of artists.
You want to work with people that are on your level or, you know, above in a healthy way, so you can strive to also continue to grow.
Why I shifted to artist development, because artists don't have people who have actually been performers developing them these days. They have artists who are people who've worked in the marketing world. They've worked in, you know, developing, you know, for numbers, but not for artistry. So I was like, I'll give you everything I know as a performer who's been in the industry, and I can tell you how to be a performer. I don't know. So that's just my...
No, those are valuable things for up-and-coming artists to learn, right? There are certain things that you can impart, like, as you just said, the artistry, the stage presence, those are all things that is harder to learn than a talented person going in for, say, a vocal lesson or a dance lesson. Those are things that if you're super talented, you're going to get that. But there's that little secret sauce nuance that someone like you sharing is super valuable for up-and-coming artists. So I would love to, one day be in one of those like sessions and see what it is that people, learn from you, which is great because you've done it, you've been there, and you've experienced what it's like to have that. So
tell us about Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square. She's an icon. She's a legend.
Queen.
She's the queen. So, so many Dolly Parton fans, and she's influenced culture, speaking of shaping culture so much. What's it like just personally on set, the project itself, the process? I mean, give us the whole spiel on that.
That was another crazy situation because I went to an open dance call. It was like 600 dancers. Wow. And like maybe less. And so I was like, I'm just going to go dance. I had a really tragic flight from Vegas that morning that was like, I thought I was going to die on.
Oh, no.
So I was like super anxiety ridden anyways. I was like, I'm alive. So went to this open dance call. I got kicked in the face. I was bleeding everywhere. I was
by another dancer on accident?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I figure it happens a lot at these open dance calls.
Well, this was this was
600
a lot of people, and we were trying to get everyone in and out. It's also Debbie Allen. Like, when are you gonna get to work for Debbie Allen and Dolly Parton in the same whatever? So did that, did the audition, whatever, and then ended up getting with a bloody nose. She made us tap one by one. Like, she was like, can you tap Debbie Allen? Dolly had just left, so she wasn't in there at the time. But tapped, I didn't tap. I was just like, I don't tap, but I sing. So I sang a cappella. And she's like, oh, come back, whatever. Came back, sang the next day, ended up getting the job, which was crazy. I can't even. But my first day, like walking onto set, actually, I shot my first scene because I split. I was a dancer for one scene, and then I moved to an actor for the rest of the film, which was a whole nother thing because it was like split between agents. I was like remembering the whole process. I was like, wow, this is so much. Yeah. But my first day of shooting was on my birthday. Again, it was like weird. I always shoot on my birthday.
Something on your birthday.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Stars are aligned.
I know. But like I walk on the set and it was like me, Jennifer Lewis, I'm acting with Jennifer Lewis for the first time, and then Christine Baranski, and then Janine Mason. And I'm like, what is my life? And then Dolly Parton's just sitting in the ambulance like right in front of me. I'm like, okay, where am I in the world? And I just always remind myself, I'm like, I'm from Pekin, Illinois. Like, I'm from Pekin, Illinois. Like, this is not normal. So it was crazy. And then, I actually flew, my dad came out and he got to like experience it a little bit, and he got to see Dolly, and he was like, because my parents, like, where I'm from, this is not like, this is like a pipe dream, for lack of better words, So I was like, I need you to see that this is real. And I was like, finally, somebody sees what's going on in my life. Yes. I really don't. But it was crazy. She was so nice. She has her own trailer, so we didn't talk a ton. But when we did, we would laugh and have good conversation. And
what have you noticed is consistent between all these like super VIP stars you've worked with? That's been like the it factor for them. What's been consistent amongst your interactions with Dolly, being on sets with as a dancer for artists, being in Hamilton with these others that are leads playing every night? What are they all doing that's the same?
Holy cow, these questions.
We need to know.
I need to know. I need to know. I'm like asking myself, I'm like, what are they doing?
Or what do they have in common? If it's a vibe thing, if it's something you picked up on. Is it a preparedness thing, perhaps?
I don't know. I think that everybody, if they search hard enough, and I think in these stars in particular, some of them got lucky. There is that world, but then they develop star power, and they develop like what it takes to be the magnitude that they are. But I don't know. There's a kindness, there's a work ethic, and there is like an unwavering belief and faith in their direction. So they don't really question it. They just kind of go along with it, which is kind of something I noticed. I'm not going to say everyone's kind because not everyone is. I'm not going to, lie about it. It's just the truth. Like some people aren't kind and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, there's definitely an unwavering faith. And I will say too, a lot of these people, especially like Dolly, or Miss Allen, they keep people around in their lives who also aren't like, that are not beneficial to them, but beneficial to their spirit and their health, their mentality. So, and they all benefit each other. So they have
Their
like
community.
their community is very
Look
strong.
at that.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So that's just something I noticed, and I'm like, oh, noted. Okay.
Well, you're the average of your friends. I don't know if you've heard that quote.
No, I haven't.
So, that's interesting.
Who you surround yourself
Surround
with.
yourself with
Yeah.
people that are going to lift you up. Yeah.
That's why it's so important to constantly reassess, right? It's like we reassess what we put in our bodies every day, right? We, try to aspire towards improving that. So same thing with the external space, got to assess that and keep uplifting that.
Yeah. How did you get inspired to get into the arts? What was it like growing up in your childhood? Was it a musical family?
No.
It was not.
No. So my family liked music, but that wasn't like our end all be all. But actually, my mom put me in like drawing classes when I was 4, so that's how I like discovered the arts. And then from there, my sister was a dancer. My dad was a baseball player, so I went into dancing. I went into baseball and then gymnastics, and then I actually didn't start training until I was 20 in dance. And then that's kind of, I did show choir, but I wasn't really into all this stuff, and it just kind of happened one day.
So what was that one day like when it just happened? What was the catalyst or trigger? What did you see or hear?
I actually. So it's a fun, weird story, but I went to my first, I went to 3 different colleges, and my first one was a private school in Lincoln, Illinois. And I was just like walking out of the theater one day, and my friends drove by, and they had like extra seat in their car, and they were going to Six Flags St. Louis to audition. And they're like, do you want to come? And I was like, Went there, audition. I ended up playing Bugs Bunny, and that's how it all started.
Oh my gosh, at Six Flags.
At Six Flags.
Oh my gosh.
And here we are.
And here we are in
Yes.
LA, after doing a few things. I am fascinated always, Walid and I, when we talk about people that are doing the 360. And this is a little more than 360 because you're also an entrepreneur. You're also on the behind the scenes side now. You're also creating, helping other people do this. So tell us about how that first experience at Six Flags inspired you to keep going on, and what was the journey after that?
Oh man. Well, I didn't know that I was going to love performing like that. Like I love show choir. I love being on stage, but I guess I didn't really know that it was possible to do it as like a career. So I just kind of was like, I think I want to do this.
Right.
And then from there, I was like, well, I don't know how to do the next thing. So I feel like what's next is I go back to school at a different school, a smaller school. And then from there, I was like, well, now what do I do?
What did you do at the smaller school?
I was just doing a community college, like, and taking like a few gen eds. And then they had like dance rep classes that I tried. Please, if you're a teacher, don't watch this. It was what my teacher said. But it was very interesting. Met some friends that I'm still friends with to today, and then from there I was like, I'm gonna go to Disney World, and so I auditioned at Disney World and I played a character there, and then that's when I started like really looking more into this as a career. And then I was like, well, while I'm here, I'm gonna go to a school that supports a dance degree. And then found that and
What school was that? Tell us about that.
Lindenwood University in St. Louis. It's a little private school.
What was special about getting a specialization in dance? What did you like gain there beyond movement?
Oh man. I don't know. Like, I mean, I also went there for Spanish translation at the same time. So it was I was in 400 level Spanish classes and the dance classes at the same time, learning how to dance from the ground up. I don't know what I learned everything I know about dance came from like St. Louis, the city. So whether it be like from, you know, taking the technique classes, but I also took hip hop classes like in the inner city, like twice a week, to learn those as well when I could. But yeah, I don't know. I learned everything I know about dance from that school. And I think it was the first time someone like my teacher, I don't know why, I have no idea why she gave me a scholarship, because the solo I brought in, like to audition for the program, was tragic. Like I literally couldn't dance, and I was like, I'm gonna show you.
It was that passion.
It was something. I don't know if it's passion. I don't know.
Confidence.
Yeah, it was the confidence
Yeah.
for sure.
Did you have some wine before that?
Probably, honestly. Yeah.
That's so exciting. So
Yeah.
you kind of fell into it, right? With friends, Six Flags to Disney, to
Yeah.
then saying, you know what? I want to educate myself a little more, get the foundation of this school. Where does New York come in? Where does working with an agent, auditioning for these big projects come in? Where does that switch happen?
These questions. Okay, so
They're just taking you back.
right.
aren't they?
I'm like thinking
You're
about
wait.
things I haven't thought about forever. Yeah. So let me just do this too.
Yeah,
let me
drink
loosen
with
up.
us, please.
Let me
It
loosen up.
deserves a sip.
Look at us. We ask a question, then we get a sip of wine.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
I might
yes.
have to do this before every question because I'm like, jeez, they're hard. So what was the transition? What was the switch? To doing it professionally or to getting agents and all that stuff?
Well, yeah, just generally, you know, that's a whole other level of performing. You went
yeah.
to, you know, from theme parks to school, and then what happens next?
All right. So my life is very strange. It feels like I look at it and I'm like, why am I here? But I end up going back home for a summer to work at Abercrombie and Fitch because I needed to like just go back home from school. From there, a friend of mine at the time convinced me to audition for the community theater production of West Side Story. So I did that. And then I got a role in that show. I played, I think, Baby John, and I was the dance captain. But, you know, it's like dance captain in Peoria, Illinois is very different than anything else. So, but I was like, this is real. I should, really do well at this or whatever. Did the show. Everyone liked it. It was cool. And then that director called me a few months later, and she's like, hey, they're having international tour auditions for West Side Story. You should go. And I was like, no, I'm not good. I can't do it. And she's like, no, you can. And I was like, no. I literally just didn't talk to her for like months.
Yeah,
I was like,
because she
no.
was asking, yeah.
Yeah, she started to push me. She's like, knew I could do it. And I was like, no. Well, something was just burning in my mind. And I was taking, at my school, we had a thing called J-term. I don't know if they do it at other schools. It's a January month-long
Yes,
course.
yes.
So I was taking kinesiology, which was so hard for 3.5 weeks. And it just kept lingering in my mind, like this international tour audition. Somehow, somebody got my information from the casting department, and I got emailed, and I was like, they're like, come to New York. I'm like, no, can you take a tape? Like, I don't know.
You were scouted.
Yeah, I guess. And then from there, it just kept burning. And then the 2 days before the audition, I remember calling my dad, and I was like, I need to go to New York. And he's like, what? And I had 2 friends there in all of New York, and I was like, no idea what I was doing. I was like, I need to go. It just feels like I have to. And then I was like, I remember being like, I think I'm gonna get this job, Dad. And he's like, all right. So he bought me a ticket and picked me up an hour later, and I went to the airport, flew out within 3 hours, then got to New York, did the audition, got all the way through it, didn't get the job, But then I had just done a ballet back in St. Louis where I made $400. Casting director called me and was like, hey, can you come back? Someone dropped out. We need you to re-audition. I was like, in New York again? Like, I can't. And I had just thankfully had $400 from the ballet. So I get online and I was like, all right, I need to buy a ticket. It was like $398. I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So I went back and then did the audition. Everything went normal. And then a few days later, they called me like, all right, you're leaving in a month to go to Berlin. And I was like,
oh my gosh, what?
I was like, Berlin, like what?
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I'm from Pekin, Illinois. Like, this is not normal. I don't know what's going on with my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went to Berlin?
Went to Berlin and I opened my show on my birthday, West Side Story International Tour.
Which was when?
June 24th.
Oh, okay.
Of 2012.
Cancer.
I'm a triple Cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Do you guys believe in
Yes,
that
we
stuff?
do.
Okay.
And my younger daughter, Laura, is very much into zodiacs.
Okay.
So she can read an entire chart.
Tell her to read. Every time I say
Yeah.
something about a triple Cancer, people either give me a hug or say I'm sorry.
Oh, man. We'll have to see what Laura
Yeah, we have to see what Laura
Because clearly I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I
Oh
don't
my
know.
God.
That's
yeah.
so cool. It's almost like it was
That's funny.
meant to be, Brandon.
Part of me believes that like, everything I'm doing in my life, I'm like, I don't understand it half the time, but everything has just kind of like happened in a weird way. Like I have this like intuition. I'll be like, I should check my email, or I should do this, or I should go to this class, and it just always like leads to the next thing. It's really strange. So,
Yeah.
but I always knew, like as a kid, I was like, something is weird with me. I don't know what it is. I just have to listen to it. So
Yeah. So for people trying to figure that out,
Love
you know, which is all of us, we're trying to figure out
Yeah.
what's the next thing,
Yeah.
from what to have for breakfast to, you know, what to do for work. But how do you really dig into that intuition? What advice would you give to like follow your hunch or like tap into your intuition?
what? I can't. These are so good. These are like the best questions I've ever had. These
Oh,
are
well,
great.
I'm so glad to hear. Okay, me and Kavita are bringing the hard hitting.
Yeah, I'm like, dang.
You know what? Thought-provoking, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it makes us think and dig deeper and
Yeah.
remember.
I'm having a whole therapy session right now. I'm like going back. I didn't know you
Therapy
never-
and wine.
Yeah. This is the new Barbara Walters, okay?
Yes.
What was the question
Well,
again?
intuition. How do you
Oh,
dig
intuition.
into it? How does someone find their intuition and follow it?
You know, this is probably going to be a little bit of a reverse statement than what most people would want to hear, but you have to protect your mind. And there's a lot of content out there and a lot of people just following trends. And so the first thing that I've always been really adamant about in my career and in my personal life is just protecting my mind and what goes in and what comes out. So that's the first thing I think for me to keeping a clear intuition, because I'll always know what my idea is. Instead of having like someone's opinion or someone's thoughts or feelings based upon a video that I saw come in and kind of infiltrate my personal thoughts. So that's kind of like my first thing to protection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as like really diving into the intuition, I'm very like I believe in what I believe in, and we all have like these things that we believe in that help us channel. You know, some call it the divine, some call it God, some call it whatever you call it. But for me, it's important to take those times and like really dive in, or else if I'm not connecting to source, I'm not going to know what I'm supposed to do or like how I'm supposed to move. So between those two things, like that's kind of what continues to lead me. And then, just always treating people with kindness and as best I can. So I don't know. I don't know.
There's a little X factor. I choked up a bit.
Yeah.
But it seems like your answer has a little bit of an X factor over and above all the things that we can do. There are things that we can say. There are things that we can do. There are things that you can help people with guidance and like from your sharing of your life journey. But there is something over and above all of that, and that is this little X factor, intuition, gut feeling, sensing inside of your mind, body, spirit that you should listen to, and it's clearly one-on-one. It's a very case-by-case basis. It's very personal, looks like. And for you, that little step was kind of not letting the outside noise, it seems like outside opinions, muddy up the creative within you and the process that keeps it pure almost, right? Yeah. We, for example, we talk about how one of our other guests said that he reads the first tape, or the first taping, like on camera, without any practice, to get that raw first-time reaction.
Yeah.
And so there is so much to be said for keeping yourself artistically integral.
Yeah.
Sharp.
Yeah.
You have
Sharp.
to.
And, filter that noise out. But what I've always noticed about you, Brendan, I've known you a couple of years now, and what I've noticed is you always have had this just like very like serene, peaceful energy. No, I do. I think
It's an
so.
aura.
It's an aura.
It's an aura.
And it doesn't seem like there's a clutter of chaos. And I think, no, there's a statement to your mind's at peace, what do you let in and what do you just say, no, these are my boundaries. I don't want to watch this content. I don't want to talk to these people. I don't want to work on these kinds of projects. It takes, a knowledge of yourself and your interests and your community and everything to be able to have those boundaries in time. But I want to applaud you at that because I think that's led to you having strong intuition and the success you've had.
100%.
Thanks,
My gosh, this is incredible. And I think that is one of the most important things, is that you have followed, you've understood, you're so self-aware. And I think that there's discipline and practice that comes from that, right? That's a key takeaway too. You have to have discipline to not be tempted to look everywhere for information, to look at what people are saying about you, to look at what people are saying about the process, and to keep it pure. So
and to deal with rejection, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. I mean, you've had these successes, but
Big
there
fan.
must also be some challenges you face, some rejection.
Yeah.
Can we dig deep and talk a little bit about that too?
Sure. Yeah. There's been so much. It's crazy. I mean, if you're in this industry, you've dealt with it all. My biggest one to date was actually last November, and that one took me out. That one hurt the most, and it was that, we work so hard to, act on these TV shows or be in these films, and it was my biggest role to date, and it was like a very famous TV show, and creating a whole new character, and they're like, all right, you got it, 6 months of shooting, this, that. And then they called me 3 days later, and my manager was like, they took you off. And I was like, you have to be kidding me. It's like, I've worked so hard for this. This is a life-changing job. So that took me out, and that kind of made me reevaluate. I'm like, I'm tired of doing this stuff for people. So I've had a lot of moments of rejection throughout this industry. I've actually been let go of a few jobs, like really large jobs. I've just been let go of out of nowhere. So like one of my credits, Gwen Stefani, right? I leave that on there, but I actually end up never dancing for her. I did the job, I rehearsed the job, I did everything as normal, and then got cut the night before the show.
To so many actors with co-stars as well.
Yeah. So, but I leave it on there. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave that on there because I worked really hard for that gig and I auditioned for it and I got it. So, but yeah, rejection is it's just a part of it. And
how do you deal with it when you get this information and news? How do you keep your cup full?
I go through the emotions at first. I don't go and be like, I need to go get drunk. I literally am like, some people do that stuff. Not that, hey, listen, everyone's got their vice and how they deal with things. It's just not. Right. I know that I need to be mentally sober to process things, or else it's gonna come back to haunt me. So I literally just kind of took it in. Like for that one in November, I took it in for a few days. I was very upset, and then a few days later, I was like, all right, let's go, get up, do it again. Come on. It's kind of always been like that. There have been other things in the past that have really been a lot harder to deal with, and in those times, I did rely on vices to get me through them, and they were not helpful to me. They actually end up prolonging the process of the depression and of the bounce back that I needed to have to get back on the grind. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I process it.
Yeah.
And I think there is so much value in accepting the situation, first of all, and then that itself takes a minute, and then having the strength to go through it. I think enduring it is so important because when we fail to endure it, it is not escapable. It's going to come back to deal with later. Yeah. So either you can deal with it now when you're going through it, or you can deal with it later, but the later just exacerbates the situation. Yeah. So it's wise to that dealing is as hard as it is to deal with it. It is much easier to escape a situation temporarily.
And as artists, we think, I'm going to get the job. I'm prepping to get the job. The job is mine. You have to be positive. You have to imagine you have it. You have to do it as if it's yours, right? Because that's the only way in. But at the same token, for your psyche, it doesn't help you if you don't get the job. You're not ever really preparing, what if I don't get the job? No one does that, right? So I'm glad you take a beat, and I think it's important for our listeners to, you know, get with that, because time due is time due. And for us, you know, it's much more than a business. It's also part of our art. It's part of our soul. It's part of our, you know, what we're giving.
Yeah, it's like if we allow ourselves to go down that road, and I mean, I think about art as like this overarching thing. Like I have so much respect for artists in the world, and I think you know, we've dealt with so much rejection that it's been able to be projected upon what people see and feel these days. Like an audience takes what we feel and they internalize it. So it's like, if I'm feeling negativity or I'm feeling rejection, why would I try to serve it to them? So I think about stuff like that, and I'm like, I have to be healthy if I'm the one who's feeding them what they need to process through their emotions. Like I can't be that way. So I don't know. That's just like
that responsibility.
Yeah, we have a lot of responsibility, and some people don't see it that way.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Brandon, we can talk to you forever.
Yes.
We'll end with one big special question that we love to ask our guests, and we'll, you know, end there. This question is for baby Brandon.
Oh shoot!
Looking back, what is something, you know, you would tell a younger you about the business, about life in general? If you could look back, you know, 10, 20, whatever you want to say. What's that nugget that you would tell your baby Brandon self?
You know, that's really tough. I think the first thing that comes to my mind, it's not overthought, it's not anything, but it's actually reversed. It's the thing that baby Brandon tells current Brandon to this day. And that is, every day is a new day. And so I've said that since I was maybe like 4 or 5 years old, and it's just been the thing that I wake up to every day. Like I used to write on my mirror, every day is a new day. You know, we get a choice. And so I try to carry that with me whenever. And I'm thankful that baby Brandon came up with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh
baby
God.
Brandon's smart. Cheers to every day is a new
Every
day.
day is a new day.
Yes.
I am going to take that and run with it, because it's
Please.
so inspiring.
Please.
And it is so invigorating, because there are things that happen in the course of the day that bring you down, beat you up, or challenge you, or confuse you. So many multitude of emotions. And to remember that the next day you have a chance at waking up and either correcting it or just moving in a different direction, so somebody else's action doesn't, you know, come in the way of your day. So
Yeah.
this is
and your
great
spirit.
love. Look at
We
that.
love that.
Yeah.
So you've carried that spirit. It was always
Yes.
inside of you.
Yeah.
That intuition is something you were born with. It's a gift you had, and we are here for it. And we're so excited to
Yes.
see your journey unfold, and very excited to hear more about your artist development projects, and we'll be supporting.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Brandon, for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
all for
Thank
Thanks for
listening.
you.
having me.
Yes, thank you
Without
all.
further ado, my name is Walid Chaya,
I'm Kavita Raj.
And I'm Brandon Hudson.
and this
Yes.
is Lights
Camera.
and
Conversation.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on Instagram and TikTok. We love interacting. Also, the content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, which we love, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Lights Camera Conversation or our individual authors, hosts, or guests. Nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. We always encourage you to do your research. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Lights Camera Conversation. The views expressed by speakers are their own, and their appearance on our program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Thanks for listening, and until next time, have a great day.